question right there. So
Yeah, no problem.
yeah, I guess I'll just I'll ask questions after in between rounds and whatnot. So we'll just like hop right into it. I'll
Yeah,
just
for sure.
yeah, it'll be a minute or so. I'm looking for something to talk about, same as last
Okay.
time.
Yeah, you haven't had a chance to see my Mercy yet?
I don't remember if we went over Mercy last time. I can
No, I
check
think it was
Discord.
Anna.
Yeah. We went over Ana. Yeah. All right. So I'll mention in a minute.
Oh, that's an interesting fight. It's bad.
Nice res. All right. Last time, did we discuss overhealing? I think your mic cut out. Did you say yes?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. All right.
Yeah.
So
I'm still doing that for sure.
yeah. So the main thing that I was noticing was that we like to flicker back and forth between healing and damage boost.
Yeah.
Make sure that if somebody's full HP, they don't need healing, right? So just make sure that we're staying on damage boost unless they need healing. Then you swap over.
Okay.
Uh oh. Gotta just be careful and watching out for where the enemy team is, and there we just kind of walked into them, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, just watching the overhealing still. Make sure we're not just going like we'll be on like the far end, and then we'll go damage shield, damage shield, damage shield, damage shield, right?
Right.
Not really gonna be very effective. Okay.
Oh, that was a bad res.
Yeah, just not gonna do a bunch if you have to wait for like the Ana anyways.
Yeah.
They'd both be coming back at the same time anyways.
Yes.
All right. So firstly, noting that we held on to Valk for 2 fights, and then secondly, noting that during this fight we popped Valk late. Not sure if we talked about that last time. Did we talk about? No. So first off, make sure we're not holding on to ultimates. Ultimates that aren't used don't do anything, right? They just don't get value. Use them more frequently. In that time you used 1 Valk, you could have maybe gotten 2 Valks off, right?
Right.
Additionally, ults that are used first generally get more value than ults that are used second. We can go more in depth on that after the game is done if we need to.
Uh-huh.
But just look to use your ultimates at the start of fights.
Okay.
Make sure we're using cover even when we're in the sky. They were out in the open. Last time we talked about cover usage, right?
Yeah.
Question mark? Yeah, so it's just, same principles is going to keep us alive there, especially if you know that they have a high noon coming. So if you know that they haven't used high noon yet this game, might be a good idea to stick near cover.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really good at ult tracking. That's
Yeah, so that's something I would say that's just slightly going into like the depths of ult tracking is slightly outside of the skill range at the moment, but just the general, if they haven't used an ultimate in 3 fights or 4 fights, they're gonna have it, right?
Yeah. Okay. Reaper's up top, dropping down.
Alright, so one problem I think I'm seeing is that sometimes I think it's really good that we're on the Pharah and we're pocketing Pharah, but sometimes when we end up pocketing Pharah, we seem to stop paying attention to our team around us, and we'll maybe talk a little bit about positioning, but like making sure we're positioning where we can actually be around our teammates instead of just only on the Pharah. We want to be able to get to as many people as possible at a moment's notice. Whereas we would just kind of be in fire and then people would be dying around us and we wouldn't really pay them much mind. So we'll go more in depth on that after the game is over, but that's just something I'm noticing for the moment, which also might have something to do with the fact that you're I think you're grouped with Emiya.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just know that we'll go over this again afterwards, but just note that just because you're grouped to somebody doesn't necessarily always mean that they're the best target.
Yeah.
Play far up with me, D.Va. Just wait. They're playing point. We move. Watch ball. On me. We push. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Give me. Just stay on tank. It's big. Give me up. I got it back. Wait for us. They're down anymore. Play on the right side. Run inside. Rather, on me. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, good res.
It's a little questionable. Just because like the fight was pretty much over.
No, I mean it's completely fine because you'll be close enough to it by the time the next fight starts, and you want him to just be there to help clean up the fight, secure the fight, as well as participate in it. Now, if you had like really close spawns or like you really need that res, then it'd probably be important. But notice how you have it again by the time this fight begins.
3, 2,
Okay.
1. Name me. Play me.
Healers are getting dove.
Unlucky. We can push on that. Not back. They're gonna be playing left side. Okay.
You have to hear all my extra noises when I play.
Oh wow.
Nice ult.
Okay, that was good.
Yeah, far now?
Okay, I'm back. I know where the Ryan goes, but I'm trying to do a fight really weird. Falcon gets me to start far. Yo, Ryan's playing right side. Wait, D.Va. Everybody D.Va. He's feeding. Then low, then dead. Follow. Nice. Have a right.
Nice pistol and res.
Still winnable. I don't know. Going point. On right. Ryan super low. Trying to stay alive. They have Reaper now. I'm on Mercy. Go Mercy.
Okay, very nice. Survivability there in that fight.
Yeah.
It is one, I think, major point that we'll go over again after this game's done, and then a couple other points we'll review as well.
We got a good pick. Wait for me. Go left side already.
Nice.
Okay, we wait. We wait front. Wait, don't feed. Just wait. We move left side again. I'm gonna go hard on their back line. Go for Nana. Try to go for like a flank reaper. Okay, engage with that. Red Mercy. Get D.Va. I'm gonna rest forward. I'm stupid. They right side. We play me. Oh shit.
Okay, so in that situation, we did end up missing the fact that the Pharah died, and then
Yeah.
there's potential res we could have gone for. We'll talk about that in a after this game's done.
Yes. Couldn't get it.
Mercy. Oh fuck. Yo, Ryan's inside. Ryan up. Reaper. Go Reaper. Go on Reaper. Go on Reaper. He's low. Nice. D.Va. Okay, not fire. Far in there. Super low.
I'll let our Ana die. We only have one healer.
Watch right, focus right, focus right, focus right hard, focus right hard. Run. Okay, now Reaper. Nice. Do it. Bars in. I'm going on. On low. On dead. Yeah, boy, who's gonna touch? Reaper mid. He's gonna kill her on. D.Va's gonna touch. On run. We're slow. See that?
Fire.
Track of our
All right.
Pharah.
Good game. So I'm going to. Why don't you exit out there? Don't quite hop into a queue yet, and then I'm going to stream on my end. And then before we actually get into anything, well, I'll ask my questions to start us off. So first off, how have things been going since last time? You seen improvement? Opposite. Been doing good, bad. How things been going?
It's been a little tough playing Ana. I don't know if my win rate went up. I mean, yeah, it went up a little bit, but it's still not up to my expectation. But I still I tend to lean towards switching to Mercy if things are not going well on Ana. But I should probably do some more quick play with Ana instead of just straight up comp. But
Okay. So just while you're practicing and learning the character, is that what you're getting at? Yeah. Okay. So then, aside from that, did you have any questions before we started up? Or I guess we already started, but did you have any questions for me about anything that came up during the week while you're practicing?
Not really. I mean, it's just like hard to remind myself what to practice on. I might just have to write
So
on a sticky note and put it on my
yeah,
monitor.
so I'd recommend you ordered the notes, right? So you're gonna get those notes for things to work on, and I do give you like the priority list of like this is what you should look at first. So I'd recommend like taking a look at those notes and doing a quick review over them before like you start playing for the day, right? And
Okay.
like make sure you're paying attention to that. Last time did we talk about like how the application process and focusing on what you want to work on? Is that something we maybe discussed?
A little bit, yeah. Try to improve on like one thing at a time or little things.
Okay, how would you? So that's definitely a point of something I went on. I just want to make sure we did discuss it. That's part of how you do it, but like how do you improve on something? You definitely don't want to overwhelm yourself by going over too much, but how do you go over the things that you are working on?
How?
Yeah.
I should probably do more VOD reviews of myself, but I mean, so far I am able to kind of slow myself down and say like, okay, put more effort into my shots, especially when I'm playing Ana. And I've noticed improvement there, especially. Yeah. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, so I guess why don't we go over that topic real quick? So first off, on the note of VOD reviewing, just note that it's not a necessity. It can be helpful. It really depends on how you learn as a person. I honestly it's kind of ironic because I'm a coach, but in my climb from silver to 4400, I pretty much never once VOD reviewed myself. Right.
Okay.
So it's not a necessity in climbing, but typically how the improvement came was that I would basically do the same idea of a review is I would review myself, but while I played. So I made a mistake, and I'd go, "Oh, that was a mistake. What should I have done instead?" Which is the basics of knowing how to improve is what is the problem, what is the solution, how do I apply the solution, right? So if I died, I know that's a problem. Why did I die, right? So what is the problem? Okay, if I was out of position, where could I have been positioning instead? So what is the solution to the problem? And then finally looking to apply that to my gameplay. So on the application process, so just let me know if any of this is sounding familiar, but just as a review, if we did talk about this last time, but when you're looking to apply all these things we talked about, the easiest way to do that is, and the way that you're going to work on all of this stuff, the same way that you're going to work on pretty much anything you're looking to get better at in game or out of game, and that is that you're going to focus on the thing while you are playing, right? So
Okay, just like active learning.
yeah, so you're going to focus on it. So that means you're not going to autopilot, you're not going to just play to play, and contrary to popular belief, you're not going to purely play to win, as when you do that, you just end up stagnating, whereas when you play to improve, you end up winning more.
Okay.
What that would look like within your gameplay is, like, let's take just a random category here. You take a category or something you want to work on, such as awareness, right? And you would think to yourself, awareness, 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 right? Where you give yourself
Yeah.
a constant reminder to pay attention to your awareness, right? And when you do that, your awareness is going to look a lot better because you're putting effort into it. And when you do that for a long enough period of time, that forms it as a positive habit. Once it forms as a positive habit, you no longer need to focus on it nearly as much, and you can therefore it just kind of comes naturally to you now, so you can move on to something else to work on. And then, as we discussed, as we discussed last time briefly, is try not to do everything all at once, right? That'll get overwhelming. Instead, one
Yeah.
category of things, or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category.
Yeah.
Additionally, you can focus on multiple things if they are completely unrelated, but if they are related, then that is a problem. So an example of this would be ultimate usage. So ultimate usage, most of the time when you're using your ultimates, you're really only thinking about how you're going to be using it for like 10 seconds every like 2 minutes, right? It's not super frequent. Maybe on Mercy it's a little bit longer because she has a longer ult and she gets it more frequently than other characters, but it's still not a ton. It's not all your gameplay, whereas something like your ability usage is, or not, sorry, Mercy, again, the ability usage might be a little bit less than other characters, right? Because she uses them less frequently. But something like awareness is going to be the entire game, and something like positioning is going to be the entire game. So you couldn't focus on awareness and positioning both at the same time because they encompass all of your gameplay. Whereas you could focus on awareness and ultimate usage because ultimately they don't really overlap as much, right? And you could probably focus as Mercy because your ability usage happens less than other characters. I'd probably say you could focus on like awareness and ability usage, because I'd say it's like similar to like your ult usage and how frequently you're using it, and how much you're thinking about it. But I wouldn't do like ultimate usage, ability usage, and something else, right? That's just too much. So just giving you some more ideas on how you can look to work on things. So that's all that all makes sense.
Yes.
All right, so let's start talking about some more things for working on. So one of the bigger things I think I saw within your gameplay is that I think we get too caught up in our pocket targets sometimes. So another word, and usually this is honestly like the turnaround. I usually have to tell people, hey, you should pocket things more. You seem to be doing a really good job of that, and you seem to understand who you should be on, which is really good. You're on the Pharah, best pocket target in the game, so you're good on that. But I'd encourage you to think of a pocket target more as a default target. It's a much better term to be using for the character. So what that means is that you default to this character when you are not needed elsewhere, right? So there are a lot of times where we were needed elsewhere and we weren't elsewhere, right? Where we were on our pocket target too much, where we weren't, for example, we'd have a critical HP teammate who's, 20 meters away from us and we'd be on the pocket target, right? When we should be on a critical HP teammate. Or there'd be maybe a res we could have gone for, where we, could have gone for res, got a lot of value, but instead we're on a pocket target, right? So I think we need to do a lot better with understanding where you should be and when, right? And making sure we're going around when needed. And then if you are not needed, then you go back to the default target. So if you need to heal somebody, go and heal them. If you need to res, go and res, right? If you're needed elsewhere, make sure that you're available to go elsewhere. And then when you're not needed, that's when you come back to your Pharah, right? And of course, don't abandon your Pharah if she's like in immediate danger or she needs help or whatever, right? But if she's all set for the moment and you're needed, because your teammate's critical, right, then go and help your teammate. Now, if your Pharah is critical as well, then you have to choose, do I heal Pharah or do I heal teammate? Maybe heal Pharah because she's your pocket target, right?
Mhm.
So it really depends. It's really going to situationally depend on who you're going to where. But a lot of times I just noticed that we kind of ignored situations where we could have moved off our Pharah or our pocket target. Additionally, make sure positioning wise, we are positioning near as many teammates as possible. So with our positioning, now this isn't going to be as accurate because we don't have a Pharah flying around in the sky, but I noticed that like this would be like the Pharah, our pocket target, who would fly a little bit away from our teammates, and we would go in position to somewhere like this, where yes, we can heal our Pharah, but now we don't have any access to, immediately hear these guys. Yes, we can fly to
Okay.
them, but we can't beam these guys if needed, right? Whereas
Yeah.
if we were to position somewhere like here, well, now we can still be on Pharah, but if these guys need healing, we can immediately swap over for healing, right? These guys need a res, we can immediately res, right? These guys, let's say one of them starts, ulting and we want to damage boost it, we can immediately swap over as needed, which will happen a lot, but, in our game, we would end up being across the map from them, right? So we want to position near as many teammates as possible. Now, if your Pharah went like off on her own, and like let's say she's going off on a flank or an off angle or whatever, it's going to situationally be dependent, right? Like, is your team all dying, or you want to get off a res, or are they all critical? If your team's good for the moment, then you'd probably go with your Pharah, right? But if you have the option to be in the middle, be in the middle so you can heal people. Now, res usage, honestly, I think usually was pretty good. There were a couple times where I saw problems situationally. I don't think it was, like, super terrible. But, like, there was some time, I think I noticed at least one situation where we just didn't notice someone died. So make sure specifically, there's a lot of indications that we get for someone dying. We can see it in the kill feed, especially is the easiest place to see this. You see this information from anywhere on the map, no matter what's happening, right? You can see this person just died. Once you see they're dead, you look around, you scan, like, where the heck did they die at, right? And then we want to, then once we see, then we can identify, can I actually get the res off? There was one time where we were just a little bit late to like res the Reaper, I believe on second point in one of those fights where we just were flying around. I think you had Valk up, and I think it was definitely it definitely was resable, especially after you kill a Pharah.
It was a little risky.
Yeah, I think it honestly would have been fine because Pharah just died and you had Valk available, right? Valk will greatly reduce the risk when you're rezzing because you have both mobility. You're able to be up in the sky, right? So you can be out of reach of some people and a lot harder to see and whatnot. But then and you also have self-healing that'll be happening all throughout your res, right? So self-heal, better angles, and mobility, right, all lead to better reses, right? So probably say that it was definitely worth it because you resed the diva immediately afterwards, and I would say in a riskier position that was further away from cover, right?
Yeah.
So and it went just fine. So I'd probably say the Reaper in that situation probably could have been even more valuable because Baby Diva might even be killed before she gets to remech, right?
Yeah.
So that's just examples of some mess ups with res. Ultimate usage, we talked about make sure that you're not holding on to it, right? I think that one's self-explanatory, right? That if you don't use it, doesn't do anything.
Right.
Little bit more complicated is make sure you're using your ults first. Ults that are used first get more value than ults that are used second. So if you have a Valk and they have a Valk and they come into the fight and they Valk first, right? Now they're going to have the damage boost and they're gonna and the healing, and they're going to come in and wipe your team out. Then you get a couple kills, right? So now if we use Valk, now we have less people to heal, less people to damage boost, therefore Valk does less, right? And we also could have already ended up losing the fight before we get a chance to Valk, right?
Yeah.
So when it's not a all-encompassing rule, but it's a general rule of thumb, ults that are used first generally get more value than ults that are used second. There are situations where it doesn't apply, but in most situations it will. So typically the best timing for your ultimate usage is typically, and again, this will depend on the character as well. There's some characters where this doesn't apply, particularly with defensive ultimates such as Zen and Lucio. But on Mercy and most other characters in the game, you use it at the very start of the fight. Not before the fight's happened, not the end of the fight. sometimes middle is okay, right?
Or like when they commit.
Yeah, once the fight has begun, and you can tell whether the fight's begun. Typically, the best indicator of that is distance between enemy team and your team, right? If they're at this distance, I probably would say the fight has not begun. Right now, if like this is like very easy when you're like on a brawl comp and you like have a Ryan v Ryan, because you can just see like if the Ryans are there, the fight's not started. If the Ryans are here, the fight started, right? Other indicators could be things such as kills happening, ultimates being used, right? Pacing, like does it look like they're just about to sprint into you? Like what's the momentum look like? Are you just kind of sitting around, or are you about to? Is a team looking like they're running in, right? So
Yeah.
all different things that indicate the beginning of a fight, right? And they also all go together as well. So. Let's see, was there anything else I'm trying to recall? Yeah, just beam usage, just so you know what you're doing. Like, we just do this sometimes, like where we just kind of go back and forth, right? We already talked about overhealing last time. If they're full HP, it's just doing nothing, so you immediately swap the damage boost if they're full HP, which I think you did good with, and then you look for something else to do, someone else to heal and whatnot. Let me see. You probably go ahead and queue up for a game now, and I think that is around it for the moment. I'm gonna think an extra second, see if I can remember anything else.
Okay. I can do that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of questions too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that at least for the moment, that's all I can recall. You familiar with super jump tech?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see us using much, but that's also because we had a Pharah as well. There's really no need to use it usually when you have a Pharah, so
Yeah.
just getting familiar with that's going to be really useful in Mercy. Are you familiar with what beam sensitivity is?
No?
Did we talk about nanoboost sensitivity last time?
Sensitivity.
Yeah.
Like priorities and whatnot, or
No. So, beam sensitivity? Yeah.
No, we have not talked about that.
Are you familiar with what it does?
Yes.
Yeah. So, what does it do? Explain that to me.
It's the sensitivity between your target beam, per se.
So you just kind of rephrase like beam target. You kind of just rephrase beam sensitivity. So like, what does beam sensitivity mean? Like, what if I were to change that? So it has a 100 to 10 rating. What happens if I put that at 10?
It would take more effort to get the beam target on someone else. Right?
No, opposite. So it would
Really?
at 10% is the lowest it can go. You would have to be staring directly at somebody for it to register. Like I would have to be aiming within their hitbox. If I aim here, the beam would not register, right? Whereas if you have it at 100%, it's going to be very lenient. It's just gonna kind of go to whoever like it wants to go on, whoever's closest to you, rather than maybe who you're aiming at. So typically you don't want it at 10 because obviously that's bad, but then also it's going to help if you lower it so that in crowds of people you can pick out who you're trying to beam and heal. So typically I'd recommend putting this at, like, depending on your aim comfortability, I'd recommend going somewhere between like 50 and 80 would be my recommendation. Guardian Angel sensitivity also is a thing. It's just the same thing but with Guardian Angel. Doesn't matter as much because typically when you fly to people, they're in a clump. You're going to the same place anyways. But think, for example, like an instance like this where like I'm trying to
You want to
maybe
get farther away.
yeah, I'm trying to maybe go to this guy, but then like this guy might catch it, and then I go here, right?
Yeah, that's happened to me before.
Yeah, so lowering that as well is going to be handy, though maybe doesn't need lowered as much. Nanoboost sensitivity is the exact same thing, and there's also a couple other characters in the game that have the same thing. Not sure how many other characters you play, but Sombra has it, Brig has it with her packs, Zarya has it. So just if you ever playing character, recommend taking a look, see if that's a feature. If they have something that locks on, it's probably a feature.
Okay. Yeah, I just changed it up for Mercy. Because I had both at 100, but now I have Guardian Angel at 90 and Beam at 70. So I'll see how that works.
Yep. You know, it's not gonna be a magic fix all, but it's just gonna help a little bit. You know.
Yeah, any small thing can be a pretty big.
Mm.
Um, oh yeah, sometimes when I Guardian Angel, I do fly backwards by accident.
I think I've heard of that being a tech. I'm actually not familiar with like, I can't recall what causes that. I think I watched like a video on that like a little while ago, but I actually
Yeah.
cannot remember what causes that.
I keep forgetting to look it up.
Yeah, that'd be something to look into.
Yeah.
I know that's a tech that people purposefully use. I should probably learn that at some point for coaching purposes. But I think that's a tech that people like intentionally do to launch themselves backwards. But I think it's, from what I understand, it's very hard. Maybe it's not. By the way, you're not streaming your game. Just let me know when you get in one as well.
I literally just got into a game.
Yeah. So just make sure
Oh,
you pull it up then. I'm gonna stop my stream.
okay.
I'll be watching over you. Ich bin da. If everyone performs their function, victory is assured.
I just found a Reddit post on the whole backwards jump thing.
Okay. I mean, if
Target
you
an ally around 8 meters, walk and jump towards them, aiming to do a point blank crouching super jump.
if you don't mind, like if you could copy paste that to me, that'd be great.
Oh yeah.
The shell of a woman. I take it you don't want my autograph then. Hello. Fiskult привет.
Mm.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack commencing. Capture objective A. First the line. Teleporter online. Let me get you covered. I'm with you. Let's get you that out the teleporter online.
Yep. So like right now, make sure you see how your whole entire team is like getting really far ahead of you, and you're sitting way in the back with the widow.
Yeah, I should be
right?
like central.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like you can still be on that Widowmaker while just being a little bit closer to your team, so like if anything were to happen, be able to help them out.
Healing stream engaged. System objective A. Ich kümmere mich um dich. Securing the payload.
Probably say that res would be just completely fine to go for, just because you wanna be able to get her back in the fight like as fast as possible, getting pick value, right? Being able to get headshots and confirm kills.
Okay.
And then now, like, just the fight's happening when she's not here to participate, which is just important for you to have all of your players at the beginning of a fight. So
Yeah.
that would probably been a perfect res to go for, just because it has been so easy as well.
Okay.
I watched the flickering of the
Can you get off the cart, please?
of the thing. It's definitely going to be a habit to break, but just reminding you again.
Thank you.
Like.
Damage increase. No one can hide from my sight. Heroes never die.
We just
So
sent it.
potentially they could have gone for the res on the Symmetra. Right, just remembering the res is going to be like super high value in a lot of situations, being up that extra player, right? Because oh.
That's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so you familiar with the term staggering? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that situation, you
Yeah,
have to
it was
gauge.
really bad.
Yeah. So like what you do at the end of fights is you gauge like, can I get out, or are they gonna kill me? If if their
Yeah.
entire team saw you go into that room, they're probably gonna come and get you. So it's probably best that you let them kill you instead of wasting all that time and whatnot.
Yeah.
Besides
Oh yeah,
that, Go
Do you
ahead.
mean Sombra, when she's invisible, give her spot away?
Yes, it does. Mhm.
Okay. Oh no.
So last time did we go over how to tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight?
Go over what?
How to tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight?
No.
No, okay. So that I don't think we necessarily have to go over that, but it is just a point I was trying to get at.
Okay.
Um,
I will have nano soon. Can you take a tiny bit of damage, Zari? So I can get nano and nano you? Just a tiny bit. Tiny, tiny bit. I'm gonna die.
yeah. In that situation, you see like the Widow's body up on high ground. That's potentially a situation where we can super jump to get up there, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I tend to hesitate on a
Yeah,
lot of my.
at the very minimum, right? You think through it and you go like, okay, well, what value, like, or what negative would I get if I just scoped it out, right? Like if I just saw, can I do it, right? Like I
Mhm.
don't think if you super jumped up in the air that you would immediately be dead, right?
Right.
In most situations, it can be immediate dead.
Nano Zarya in 3, 2, 1. Monkey in our back line.
Yeah, I like the Valk timing. Probably go for the risky res there. Right, it's not. I think we're definitely gonna have to talk about how to tell whether or not you won or lost a fight, and we'll also talk about res
Okay.
usage. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll talk about res usage. We'll talk about how to tell whether or not a fight is won or lost after game is over.
Your support has arrived. Let's get you back out there.
And then maybe we might as well. We also might, if we
Behind
have the
still.
time, just like hop into the replay and just look at that one particular res and think like and just
Yeah.
watch it, just so you can
Yeah.
see it.
Damage boost engaged. Fire at will.
Oh God. Scared me.
Oh, being aware of our surroundings, right? Watching for
Yes.
the Reaper when he's, I believe, shooting up there as well, which gives away his location.
Yeah.
Besides that, when there's a big grab going on, might be worth it to damage boost the Reinhardt, right? Who's going to be, swinging into in hitting everybody, right?
Yeah, I was going to, but then I saw that he charged. So I
Yeah.
in the Zarya.
On my way.
Reaper's fine. Wait, he's mean. Nope.
He's left.
Left is the accurate color.
Yes. Yeah, I thought he went main, but he didn't.
Zarya does that. We need you in the front. Ryan naded.
Let's get you back out there. Heroes never die.
Excellent Valk timing again. Good Valk. Or not good Valk, Perez.
Monkey, he's gonna
Yeah.
die.
No one can hide from my sight.
Okay, notice we're a little far back there. And you also didn't have very much pressure as well on you, like you just killed half their team. And so not really any negative from pushing forwards besides getting trapped.
Yes.
Okay, probably be a good opportunity to super jump up to high ground, right? High ground is fantastic positioning. We want to be taking it whenever we have the option, and super jump allows us to do that. Did we talk about high ground usage last time?
Huh?
Did we talk about high ground usage?
Just with Ana, but
Yeah, same exact thing applies on Mercy as well, right? So high ground usage is general positioning. It's something that applies to pretty much every character in the game. Almost every character in the game benefits from being on high ground at certain points.
okay.
Alright, so to quickly go over, how do you tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight? This largely comes down to watching kill feed. It's the top right corner of your screen. You know whether or not you've won or lost. When you have one or two people are on your team, when you've won or lost, sorry, I'm mixing up what I'm saying. You are at an advantage or a disadvantage if you are up 1 to 2 people or down 1 to 2 people, right?
Mhm.
2 to 3 people is a won or a lost fight, right? At that point, when you have advantages, you play super aggressive. When you have disadvantages, you play passive. When you've won a fight, you get really, really aggressive. When you've lost a fight, you look to get out if possible. If you cannot, you let them kill you. This way you don't end up staggering yourself and then either dying late or just, letting your team walk in without you, which is not going to be good either.
Yeah.
Also, just don't look to use ultimates in won or lost fights, right? So this is just important to understand, like, are we winning? Are we losing? In that fight, on second point in particular, where I was talking about that one res, it seemed as though we thought fight was lost when we were down one person. And we had res available, which, res is really powerful because it can take that disadvantage and turn it into neutral, right? Because we go from being down one to being even, right? So
Okay.
it really can be very powerful, right? You can go from being even to being up one, right? So
Right.
in that situation, it's definitely not lost, yet we were playing almost as if it was lost, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Healing stream engaged. Damage boost engaged. Unstoppable. Don't stop now.
I need
Yeah.
help.
So
I know.
when you see Lucio that running around in your backline and going
Mhm.
up to high ground, might be an indication that you might want to go help out your Widow, right? So we only
Yeah.
went after Widow's dead rather than before and helping her out, right? Which could
Yeah.
end up saving a res and possibly help kill the Lucio as well, right? So
Mhm.
that's an
Yeah. Far enough.
example. So that's an example of identifying just when somebody needs to, right?
Reality bends to my
Right.
Mhm.
So here we're down 2 people, but probably too late now, but
Takes from me for that.
possibly, right? If thinking about it, if we go for a Valk and then go for a res, well, now we're only down one person. Is that really lost at that point if you're down one person, right?
Right.
So, and you're also ulting. So that's an example. Now, by the time I mentioned it, it was too late. You lost the opportunity, but that's things to be thinking about.
3,
Here, you
2,
just got a bunch of picks, so maybe Valking in might be a good idea, right? So again, watching kill feed,
Zarya native,
right?
Zarya native, Zarya native.
Good res.
fire. Damage amplified.
Yep, so that's another example of just how paying attention drastically changes our playstyle. If we think that that's a lost fight, we sit out and we don't push in, right? If we know that it's one, we ult and we go really aggressive, right? Big differences in how we're playing.
Oh my. That was a mistake. Oh wait.
So, what? Just for my sake, because you obviously know in your head, but what was a mistake? What do you think was a mistake?
Oh, going to the back line.
Yep, I definitely agree. And then also just kind of being on the middle of point, right? Just kind of very
Yeah.
out in the open, maybe sitting a little bit slightly more on the outskirts. Typically, Mercy prefers to be on that very edge of the fight where
Mhm.
she's still able to do things, but she's not getting caught up in grabs, right?
Yeah.
Damage increase. That bitter.
Positioning's kind of weird.
I might need this later. You should be at peak performance levels.
And I noticing we were a little far back there, so we weren't able to help Ryan Hart.
Okay.
Okay. Another concept that we might want to... Oh, I'll let you try to get out here. Another concept to keep in mind is that Mercy Valk is not a defensive ultimate, right?
Okay.
Because it is not able to keep up and sustain through enemy offensive ultimates, right? Like a Beat and a Trance can stop a Vara Barrage and a Reaper Blossom, but Valk cannot, right? So it is not a defensive
Right.
ultimate. Typically, it's meant to be more of an offensive ultimate, which we can talk about after when we have the time.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
There's one on cart. There's one on cart. She's getting healed. She's nice.
Ugh.
Reaper has Blossom. He has Blossom. He's going to Blossom, you guys. He's on the right. Don't forget about the cart, you guys. Right now our support is holding it down on the cart.
Hello?
Alright, so in that situation, I think we ended up wasting a couple of abilities. Like particularly when we came out of spawn, we ended up just throwing a heal orb at nothing, and then we faded for no reason, and then we threw another heal orb that didn't really do anything. So just watching those abilities and making sure, again, or heal orbs apply to the same rules of don't overheal, right? If healing's not needed, heal orb is not needed.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start streaming up here. Probably won't have time for another game, but we'll go over some other things and then hop into the review and main points. So we were finishing on, what was that one topic I didn't finish fully? We were talking about
Whether a fight is won or lost?
no, we finished
or is it
that.
something else?
We finished that. It's the other one that I started talking about in the middle of the, and then I stopped because you started the fight. Oh, I'm blanking. Was it something to do? Oh, ultimate usage. Okay, so aggressive, right? Typically, Valk is a more aggressive ultimate because again, it can't really act defensively. It can a little bit, particularly in saving yourself or against smaller, like not big ultimates, right? Like you can use Valk, for example, to defend as a defense against another Valk or as a defense against a Moira ult, but you can't really use it as a defense against a Blade, and you can't really use it as a defense against a Grab, right? It can be helpful in those situations, but it's not going to do enough usually. So it typically gets most of its value out of being offensive, right? Because the damage boost is going to get a lot of value. Fun factoid for you, in case you're unfamiliar with this, is that Orisa Bongo, right, her ultimate, is the highest fight winning ultimate in the game, right? So you are going to win the most fights in the game, statistically, highest percentage of winning, right? Using Orisa Bongo, right? So that just goes to show how much powerful it is to damage boost a bunch of people. And Mercy ult doesn't do it to the same extent, but still does it, right? Where you can damage boost your whole team at the same time, which can be very, very valuable. So damage boost, used it maybe a little bit earlier than we were. Like I think we started using it a lot of times like after we were after either your whole team is critical or after like you were down a person or two, right? Which can be okay timing. It really depends upon the situation, but you can also consider using it maybe just like 5 seconds earlier when your team's full HP and is trying to run into them, right? So then besides that, we were, what was the other topic? Okay, ability usage. So we talked about how to tell whether or not a fighter is won or lost. Also, let's talk about how to tell whether or not you can go for a res or not, right? So when going for a res, right, first off, we identified, first step is know the person's dead. You can tell that through kill feed, you can tell that through tab, you can tell that from hearing them die by seeing them die, right? A lot of different ways that you can tell whether or not a person's dead. Once you identify they're dead, right, you want to eyeball the body. You just are identifying, can I do it? what factors are at play here, right? There's a lot of different factors that go into play, right? Do I have cover I can use, right? This person doesn't have cover, this person does have cover, because I can be right here, boom, free res, because they can't shoot me. Oh, maybe it can't really do this because I don't really have any cover, so I'm going to get shot in the head, right? So that's one factor. Do I have cover? Another factor would be who's looking at the body. If their entire team, if there's res here and their entire team is looking that way, well, by the time I start the res and am 3/4 through it, they're gonna have a very slow reaction time to turning around and shooting at me, right? So even if, right, like the res was like right here, right, like if I have a Valk up or I have a way of escaping and they, are turning in the opposite direction, by the time they find me, I probably already have the res off, right? So even if I'm close to them, doesn't matter if they're not looking at me, right? What are they paying attention to? Maybe they're distracted. So maybe they are next to it and semi looking at me, but they're all distracted by my ulting Reaper, right? Like maybe I have a Reaper who's ulting like right here, right? They might not be so concerned about me rezzing, right? Do I have Valk? Valk, like as we discussed, is going to greatly increase your ability to get off the res, right? Because you're able to have increased mobility, self-healing, ability to get to, cool, like locations you couldn't get to before, right? Resing above in the air. Besides that, distance could have a factor, right? Like if they could be able to see you, but if like you're across the map from them and they don't have range, then you might be able to get it off. Factoid is you can drag res around corners if you're unfamiliar with that. Let's see, what else is there? Probably like a factor or two that I'm just not remembering at the moment, but those are all the main ones, right? Just pay attention. Oh, do you have team support, right? Like do you have protection, right? If you have a, they could be staring at you.
Bubble.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like those things can let you get off with the res. So think through all those steps. Definitely say there were a bunch of reses where like you could have gotten them off just because some of those factors were in play. And then other reses where like we probably shouldn't have tried it because we had like 6 people staring at us and we were out in the open and we did it anyways, right? So identifying that is very important. So just if you want to take the time, go back and like look at that one fight after we're done here and like think to yourself, right? Let's walk through those steps and think like, could I have done it? Right? I would say that you probably could have, particularly because like you had Valk available and nobody was looking at you. Maybe you had like one person looking at you, but it seemed as though like everybody had turned their attention away from you, which meant that even if they were near the body, you were still, and the body was out in the open, right? Those two factors were in the, weren't available, but even though those two are the case, you still had nobody looking at you and you had Valk up, right? So that made the res probably doable. So now going to the main points, doing a quick review, wrap us up here. Ability usage, right? We just ultimately, I think Guardian Angel usage is honestly very good. Not a lot of big problems with it. Your reses, we just discussed most about the reses, like pretty much everything there, and then we talked about a couple things earlier, like make sure you're just watching for the bodies, right, and whatnot, and just paying attention to opportunities. Besides that, let's see, probably place ability usage at like medium priority, maybe on like the lower end of a medium priority. Ultimate usage. Let's see, where are we gonna put ult usage? Ultimate usage. We definitely did a lot better in our second game with our ultimate usage, right? We had a lot better timing with it. We didn't hold on to it, so don't make sure you're not holding on to our ults. Don't use them in won or lost fights. Make sure we're using them earlier in fights. Still might recommend using it slightly even earlier than we were using it in the last game. Make sure we're using it offensively, not defensively. Overall, probably medium priority, but more like on the higher end of a medium priority. So just like probably above your ability usage. Now, Mercy is not mechanics, but that category is replaced by beam usage. This is particularly make sure that you are not flickering between, right? Make sure we're not overhealing, right? As well as make sure that we are understanding what a default target is, right? A default target is you default back to the person, the best target, when you're not needed anywhere else, right? So making sure we're not just sitting on them hardcore the entire game, but we want to make sure that we're bouncing around whenever we're needed, whether that be a res or somebody who's low HP, right? So overall, Hmm. Probably say that. Trying to think about where to place this. Honestly, that one looks like a medium as well. These things are being placed up really close in the medium. Might have to adjust a little bit. I'm gonna drop the reses to like a low to medium just to spread this out a little bit more. Reses traps to low to medium, and then this is tied with medium for ultimate usage.
Okay.
Positioning, make sure that we're positioning in the middle of our teammates, right? Not on the
Hmm.
outskirt, or not like, on the edge where we can't be in anybody, but we also don't want to position, in the middle of a fight, right? So we don't want to position like up here, even though we can see everybody, we don't want to be up here or right here. We want to kind of sit on the outskirts of fight, particularly like a little bit away from the enemy team. So might want to do something like, even sitting a little bit further back, or we can still see everyone on our team and heal them, but we're not in the middle of the fight, right?
Right.
Besides that, make sure we're using cover, and that is pretty much it. Honestly, low to medium, not a very big problem.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? I'll put that at a low. Not, trying to think. To spread, for the spread, it's, we'll put it at a low. Though it still needs, some work on it. It's not that it has nothing in it, just less than the other categories. Moving on, awareness, right? Paying attention to our environment. Make sure you're watching kill feed, right? We just talked about this recently, so I don't think I have to go. Just as a quick reminder, 1 to 2 is an advantage or disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. Get more aggressive when you're winning. Play more passive when you're losing. When you've lost, look to get out. If you cannot, let them kill you. Don't use ults in won or lost fights, right? Besides that, just make sure we're paying attention to our teammates, particularly health bars, and making sure that we are paying attention to who needs me and when, right? So we're not so we don't just kind of stare at people who are dying, right? But we're actively helping them out, right, and being on top of them. Besides that, make sure we're paying attention to, dead bodies, right? So we're not letting people die and not knowing they're dead. And then once we do see the dead body, identifying like the situation, right? And that's part of awareness, of like, look around you, see like, can I get away with this, right? Because you have to analyze the environment to be able to do that.
Yeah. When should I be asking myself, should I res instead of can I res?
Should I res versus can I res?
Yeah.
I would say that, so can I res would imply that like it is possible, but it might, just because it's possible doesn't always mean you should. Like, for example, if like your whole team's dead, or like if your whole team's dead and you can get off a res, then what? But what's the point of the res, right? At that point, so should you res? Yes, is a good question, but also I'd say it's both, because should I res? You can say that like about, if somebody dies like right here, should you res? Yes. Can you res? No. Right? So I would say it's probably like both. Like, can I and should I res? Right?
Okay.
Do I have the ability to, and is it a good res? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then besides, yeah, so just pay attention to your environment. Overall, that one probably went like a, probably say, so this, honestly, I think this dipped largely into a lot of the other categories, which means that if you work on this one, other ones get better, but you could also take that the opposite way as well, and say that if you work on the other one, that this one doesn't need as much work, because if you work on the other ones, then those other ones come along. So I'd say it's the one with the most amount of stuff within it, but at the same time, you could take it step by step and just go for the other ones first. So if, I don't know, I usually flip that, like, I'm always flip-flopped on that. That's like coaching theory that, like, I don't know, I'd have to deliberate more on that. But, like, you could take it either way. Don't feel hung up on it. So let's just say it's a medium high in priority, just because it has so much stuff within it. But, like, don't feel, like, if you feel like you want to more specifically target something, go ahead and target something. For that reason, I might not put it at number 1 here on the list for you to work on. So, list for you to work on. Number 1, main point, probably going to be your... This is hard. Because honestly, you can just take it in whatever order. Like, to be honest, right? Like, a lot of the things were middle. I would say that don't like. I'll just do a do's and don'ts, right? Could work on awareness. Could work on ultimate usage. Could work on your probably beam usage, right? Then probably say don't try to work on your don't try to work on your positioning because it's not doesn't need as much work, and then probably not your your ability usage either. So just kind of put that in order. Top three will just tie for awareness, ultimate usage, and beam usage. Next comes ability usage, and then finally comes your what was the last one? The positioning. That all kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry for that being a little bit confusing. But
Oh no, sorry, I got it.
yeah, all right. So then, besides that, do you have any other questions or anything else before we end up?
No.
Heroes never
I think that was a really great explanation.
Mm-hmm.